Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Vinny Strenzi. I'm the Vice President of the Legal Practice here at SA Global. Welcome to the webinar. We're really excited to have you in attendance today. So let me just go ahead over here and do some quick introductions. So as I mentioned, I'm Vinny Strenzi, the Vice President of the Legal Practice. I'm joining you today from just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. As you can see, I have my Tom Brady fan up here. That little guy's actually 16 now, so those pictures are from a while back. But with me today, I have Lucy Negrilli, and I'll give her just a moment to introduce herself.
Thank you, Vinny. Yes, good afternoon. I'm from London in the UK. I have 30 years experience in the legal field, and I'm excited to show you Evergreen today.
Thank you, Lucy. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through today's agenda. So we're just going to start off with a couple slides just really to set the stage. We're going to talk a little bit about who SA Global is. We're going to talk a little bit about how we sit on the Microsoft stack. And then we'll give you kind of a holistic overview of the platform and what's in the platform from a financial standpoint and some of the other things that we're doing. Then Lucy's actually going to dive us through a product demonstration. We'll talk through our true cloud strategy a little bit, kind of what makes us different in the cloud environment. And then we'll wrap with a client story and video from one of our law firms in the UK, Field Fisher. And I will tell you that that will be about a 2.5-minute video that Microsoft has produced. And I'll just say that sometimes the videos over the WebEx meetings can be a little funky. We ran it earlier and it was running great, so hopefully everything will go smoothly there. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, please jot them down or put them in the chat. Lucy and I will be happy to go through those at the end of the presentation. So by all means, we will be open for Q&A and we'll stay on as long as people want. But obviously, if you do have to drop during the Q&A session, feel free. And if you want to send them in, we will make sure we get an answer back to you. So with that said, let me dive into who SA Global is. It's actually well, it may be a new name to you. We've actually been around a long time. We've been around for 30 years. We are a Microsoft partner, and not just any partner to Microsoft. We are what's considered an inner circle partner. So Microsoft has tens of thousands of partners out there globally. And as being a part of the inner circle, we are actually in the top 1% of all partners globally. So it's a really prestigious honor that Microsoft has bestowed upon SA Global. We're very proud of that. In addition to that, we have been named Microsoft Partner of the Year 11 different times. And we hold a whole slew of gold accommodations from Microsoft. So we actually have a great reputation in the Microsoft community as a go-to partner in the professional services vertical. And you can see many of the verticals that we service up in the graphics there. So things like advertising and media, accounting, consulting firms, and of course, legal is a vertical that we focus in on as well. So I'll just go through SA Global kind of from a numbers standpoint. We have about 700 employees globally. So we actually have folks in 25 different countries. We are 100% based on the Microsoft technology. So we do not support technologies outside of the Microsoft stack. We're just focused strictly in on Microsoft. And at the top of the graphic, you can actually see that we support over 500,000 Dynamics licenses worldwide. So those are basically our clients, the clients that we support. And when you look and you start to compare us against some of the other practice management solution providers inside of legal, when you start to add those folks together, we're well ahead of the number of installs that we support globally compared to some of the folks in the legal community. So we're really excited to bring this expertise into the North American market. That's actually why I joined the organization. I have over 15 years of experience in legal, and I was really excited about the path that SA Global was on as far as from a technology standpoint and the things that they're introducing into the North American legal market. So with that said, let me talk to you a little bit about what we've built and how we're helping law firms. So I'm going to start with a couple foundational elements here. So let me talk a little bit about the Microsoft stack. So what I found is that during different presentations, not everybody's familiar with some of the core modules from Microsoft. So I'm going to start there for a quick second and talk to you a little bit about how we overlap. So this is essentially at a very rudimentary level, the Microsoft ecosystem that we sit upon. So we have the Dynamics 365 environment. In particular, there's a financial and operations component that really runs what I'll call the financial side of the application. And then there's something called the Power Platform. And hopefully everybody on the call today is familiar with the Power Platform. But there's essentially 4 different components. I think in legal, the one that's probably best known is Power BI, but I'm going to talk through the different components here in a slide or two. And what SA Global has done is we've built out some unique IP that sits on top of those 2 stacks, really geared at the challenges that law firms have. Of course, law firms have some unique business challenges that make configuring the software kind of unique. And we've used our Evergreen and Power platform to really be focused in on the legal community. So what are some of the things that we looked at kind of solving for law firms? Well, at a holistic view, what we looked at was the cash and accrual accounting challenge that we have here in the US. Dynamics really out of the box does not actually handle both of those. So as SA Global, we went in and we built out the ability inside of Dynamics to actually do both of those. We focused very heavily in on the attorney experience, and we're going to showcase a bunch of that to you today about how we're solving challenges that attorneys face on a daily basis. We heard from many different prospects out there in the legal community that they really were looking for end-to-end capabilities, that they didn't want to have to deal with the number of third parties that they have to go out and acquire for some of these other practice management solutions inside of legal to run it in its entirety. Of course, complex rate structures, that's what legal's all about these days. Between complex rate structures, alternative fee arrangements, all of that, we needed to have the system be able to be configured for all of those complex structures that law firms face on a daily basis, focusing in on ethical compliance. And of course, cloud is a big focus point for law firms today, and we are a 100% cloud-based solution. We're born in the cloud, and we'll talk to you a little bit more about that as we get deeper into the presentation. So this is the solution at a 50,000 foot level. So at the center of the graphic, what you see there is the practice management solution. So if you look at the modules that are contained inside of Evergreen there, you can see a lot of the modules that you're probably pretty familiar with. So things like payables and receivables, but as you start to look through that list, you'll notice that there are a couple items on there that don't fall into your average practice management solution. So things like ethical walls or records, a lot of times those have to be purchased from those third-party providers. New business intake, conflicts, also solutions that oftentimes people have to run third-party solutions for. So we have a mentality here at SA Global that we like to say, we'll meet you where you are. And whether you have those solutions from another provider and you would like to continue to use them, obviously you could continue to do so. Or you can leverage our solution in that end-to-end capacity and start to think through kind of a cost replacement strategy. So if you're running ethical walls from another company and you wanted to move on to a product like Evergreen, obviously over a period of time, you could replace that ethical wall solution with our ethical walls, and of course, reduce your overall spend as far as your IT infrastructure and modules that you're supporting. On the outer ring, that is the Empower suite that sits on top of the Microsoft Power Platform. And here you can start to see the 4 pillars of the Power Platform. So you have workflow automation, you have business productivity apps, you have AI virtual assistants, and you have business intelligence. So you can read along on the outside of the ring, but the thing that makes these products really great is that they are geared for what they call a citizen developer. Microsoft uses that term often, and that means kind of your average person can go in and make these things happen. So they use no code and low code interfaces to allow you to go out and build workflows, build business productivity applications, build your BI dashboards, or even build virtual assistants to assist the organization through various tasks. So as we go through the presentation today, what you're going to see is Lucy showcase off a bunch of these capabilities. You can see in these graphics here, we have a screenshot of our time recording app that we've built using the Microsoft Power Apps. The great part about that technology is, of course, law firms have their own unique business styles, and sometimes people want to add or remove capabilities. Of course, because it is in a kind of a no-code, low-code tool set, you do have the ability to go in and tweak and customize each of these components to personalize them for your own law firm. The virtual assistant is probably one of my favorite parts of the presentation today, and that is an interactive bot that your attorneys can use. It is both proactive and reactive as far as the way it interacts with your attorneys. So if they want to ask it questions, they can get answers back on things like looking for copies of an invoice or inquiries into a matter. It can also alert you to things like maybe a past due invoice has come through, and it can pop up inside of that channel and kind of participate as really an element of the finance team rather than just being a typical finance system. You know, it can act on things behind the scenes and help inform the attorneys on some of the things that are happening inside of the organization from a financial standpoint. BI dashboards, of course, we'll touch on some of those today, but providing those typical insights. My favorite part about those Power BI dashboards is, of course, if you're an Excel user, you can become pretty proficient at the Power BI dashboards rather quickly. And of course, it gives you those great visualizations to understand kind of your financials at a glance with some great visualizations that are much easier to consume than typical spreadsheets. And then lastly, the workflow and automations. Well, that of course is just starting to route things inside the organization so that they can get into the hands of the right people to be able to either approve them or pass them up on to the next level as far as the overall typical workflows of your own unique law firm. And then lastly, before we dive into the demo, let me just talk to you a little bit about the overall attorney experience. So what you'll see is that we have put a lot of time and effort into the overall attorney experience. We like to allow the attorneys to work where they're comfortable. That might be inside of a web browser, that might be inside of a mobile device. And of course, inside of this screenshot, what you'll see is that we're leveraging Microsoft Teams as well. So we believe Microsoft Teams to be a fantastic productivity center for attorneys. So we're going to showcase off to you how to leverage Teams as part of your evergreen deployment today. If you don't run Teams, maybe you're a Zoom shop or you run WebEx or some other technology like that to share information. Well, of course, we can meet you where you are. Of course, if you do have Teams, we'll be able to showcase off some of those capabilities inside of Teams as well. So with that said, let me go over here and transition our sharing over to Lucy, and she's going to walk us through a brief demonstration of Evergreen and Empower.
Thank you, Vinny.
And as Lucy's going over to set that up, Lucy, I think we have a PowerPoint. There we go. I'll just remind you too that if you have questions as we're going through the presentation, to throw those right in the chat, and we'll be happy to address those at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Vinny. So as Vinny said, we've worked hard on the attorney experience, and I'm going to take you through two different types of experience that are available to the user. And the screen I'm currently presenting is the Evergreen Hub. The purpose of the Evergreen Hub is to have a one-stop shop where the user can access everything they need to do or carry out the role within the actual business. So along the top of the screen, you can see I have 8 tiles. These are configurable tiles, allowing the user to personalize the Evergreen Hub and decide actually which tiles are relevant to their role within the business. So I'll step you through a couple of the examples. So as an attorney, it's important for me to be able to access my clients very easily from a list. So from that tile, I simply get I've been dropped through to a list of the clients that I currently are working on. Now, with all of the screens that I'm presenting, it's easy for the user to sort any of the information just by clicking on the column heading, and you can sort either alphabetically or reverse. In addition, we have the ability to search exactly for content or begins with. So in this example, I'm going to choose contains. And then in the box there, we'll just type in health. So I'm simply going to apply health to the list of the name, and very quickly I've got the information that I requested. In addition to being able to sort the columns of information, we allow the user to personalize these lists as well. So as an example, if I go to the right-hand side of the screen, I can personalize this grid where I can now see all the fields that I can actually include within the client listing screen. One of them that's particularly useful for me would be the credit limit for the client record, and therefore I can simply update. And now I don't need to save the list. Next time I open up the list, it will automatically display the additional column that I've requested. Just working along a couple more examples with the tiles, we have my work items. So this is where, as a user, I'm able to identify and actually work with the workflow items that are being routed via workflow for some kind of action for myself. So in this example, I've got several expense reports that have been sent to me for my approval, and I've also got a new client that's come in from Darren, and it's part of the workflow is requesting me to carry out a particular action. So I'm going to pick up here the expense report. So in this example, I can see Darren's hired a car. I can see the dates, all the other information which is relevant to that particular request. But what I can see on the right-hand side that there's actually no receipt attached. So using my workflow option at the top, I'm obviously not going to approve it, so I can reject it. I can then pop in a comment as to why I'm rejecting it, and then simply use the reject key. So I've dealt with that particular work item. You can see the list has now gone down to 3. And when I go back to my main dashboard here, you can see the work items has reduced down to 3. Last up, I'll just introduce you to my expense reports. So within Evergreen, we have the ability of an expense management module. And this is where, as an attorney, I can record my expenses, but I can also see from the main screen here where my expenses are at any given time in the actual approval process. To add something to an existing report, so I've got one here in draft, I simply drill through, and then I can add a new expense line, pop in the information with regards to the expense, and once I'm happy with that, then I simply save it. So that was a couple of examples there of the tiles at the top and how I can interact with these tiles, and I can retrieve information very easily. The main bulk of the system of the page is actually providing me my performance indicators as an individual. And from here, I can, again, just using the capabilities of the embedded Power BI, drop down into the fees that I've been have billed. Alternatively, I can interact with the graphics at the bottom. So I may want to drill down into my aging WIP, drill through, and I can go straight down to the underlying data. Now, these are a standard set of Power BI reports that we've created to enable an attorney to be able to track against the metrics and targets that they're monitored on. You may notice at the bottom of the screen, we've got a number of tabs. So I can look at the data where I hold a role of the fee earner, but equally I can choose matter fee earner or even client partner. And again, I've got a standard set of KPIs delivering me the information at my fingertips. We'll move on now to the left-hand side of the screen where we have a menu. And as an attorney, I can very easily get to a list of my recently used matters. Again, a configurable list. Some attorneys might want 50 to 60. Other attorneys may want over 200 in their recently used list. So completely configurable. What can I do from this list? Well, you'll notice I've got a few shortcut links at the top. So as a user, I might want to record time. And so I can just, using the link at the top, have a time entry form presented, and from here I can complete that information accordingly, and then I would use my buttons at the bottom to save or submit it. Another option, or a shortcut at the top, is inquiry. This enables me to do a financial inquiry on the matter, and from here you can see in the center of the screen I've got aging balances with regards to my WIP and debt position. And from here, I can drill down into the underlying data. So in this example, my unbilled time transactions. Or I may want to actually look at my trust monies. And so I've got 2 trust accounts here. I can simply drill into the trust account to understand the information a little bit more easily. Continuing down on the left-hand side, if we look at search, so very important for somebody to be able to find their information quickly. So again, just by typing in the name or part of a name for the client record, we can very quickly search for the underlying data. The Time app. So the Time app is a Power Platform capability. And what we've done here is we've embedded it within the actual Evergreen Hub, just so that if the user wants to use it within here, it's very easy, they can do. And I'll walk you through the capabilities of that in just a short time. We then move down to time recording. So as an attorney, I need to know where I've recorded time, where I've got missing time. So our time recording workspace calendar enables me to have a helicopter view of the time I've recorded over a particular period of time. In this example, we're showing the month of May, but I can use these arrows at the top here to move back to maybe April to see what I've recorded. We can drill into the individual days to drill down to the underlying data again, so I can clearly see what I've recorded today. Or if I want to record time, and for time maybe I spent on Friday, then I just click into the box for Friday and I can choose from the list, either from my recently used matters or do a brand new time entry. In this example, I use recently used, so it passes across the client and matter number. I would then complete the form accordingly and save and submit it. We then move down to useful actions. Useful actions are really any other actions that I carry out day to day. Again, a configurable list. In the example I've got here, we've got absence requests. So maybe I want to put in an absence request, in which case that will then take me through to the underlying program. Alternatively, I've got access to conflict searching or even create or amend a client or a matter record. Last up on the left here, we have useful links. So we know that attorneys use a lot of URLs and websites on a daily basis. So we provide them with an area here where they can configure the links that they use, and then they can categorize these into various sections as I've done here. So that was a short introduction there to the Evergreen Hub. So I'm now going to just come out of full screen mode and we'll go into the next user experience, which actually Vinny already highlighted within his PowerPoint, and that's how we have delivered Evergreen but inside Microsoft Teams. So we're able to allow the attorney to, wherever they work most of the time, we're enabling them to access the information without actually leaving Microsoft Teams. So I'll just go into full screen mode for you. So as you can see, when I access into Teams, I am first of all presented with my performance. So on the left-hand side, there's a team here, my performance, and this is showing me the general data. Now, this is the same set of KPI reports that we saw within the Evergreen Hub. And from here, as you saw earlier, we can drill down and into the underlying information accordingly. Then, as I move down, we've got as an attorney here, I hold a slightly wider responsibility, and therefore there's a number of people that report into me. So it's important for me to be able to monitor their performance as well. And what we can see here is this is Amber's performance, and clearly Amber's not recorded any time or raised any invoices for the current month of May. So just using standard Teams functionality, I can use the chat option here and I can have a conversation with Amber with regards. I can do screen sharing, or I could actually do a call to Amber accordingly. So nice and easy for me to monitor different people within my team. Moving down, you'll notice that I've got a number of matters listed here. So as an attorney, when a new file is created, Evergreen can, if you require, automatically create the matter records within teams and assign the relevant responsibilities to that particular team. So in this example, if I choose Yadam Media as my matter, you can see I've got several channels underneath. If we go to the General tab, that enables us to actually have the matter information, but presented to me within Microsoft Teams. So what do we see on the Matter Hub? We have the standard matter details and client details, contact and addresses. But then we see down at the bottom the 4 individuals who make up the key responsibilities on this particular matter record. So whether that's the client relationship partner or the matter fee earner, I can clearly see who holds that responsibility. I can interact with these guys. So if I wanted to schedule a meeting with Benjamin, I can just, using standard Teams functionality, you can see it's automatically assigned both myself and Benjamin as included as attendees, and it's also attached here the description of the file. So nice and easy for me to manage and communicate with my team members. Over to the right-hand side, we've got a status bar for the current status of the matter. Clearly the matter's open in this example. We then got access to our last activities, so last time the bill was raised or when we've received payments. The overview there of the financial summary, so WIP balance, debt balance, and if I need now a little bit more information, well then I can just step across into the useful links and it will then open up the main matter inquiry form for me. So that's a little overview there of the Matter Hub. Now, as an attorney, I will want to record time. So what we have on the left-hand side on the main menu is that we've embedded some of our normal Power Apps here. So if I select my Time Power App, this is the time recording app that we've developed using the Power Platform, and this enables me to record time across my matters. So let me walk you through a little bit of the screen overview. So when you log into the Time app, along the top, we've got the current week that we're working in. I've already recorded 5 hours on Monday. If I want to drill down, I can see the information I've recorded. We have the ability of offering 4 different methods to capture time. We recognize that people work in different ways, and therefore we need to be flexible in how they record their time. So we'll start off with the timers, and we'll just record a new timer. I'll do some research and type in the name of the client or part name, or we can pick from the recently used list. Just attach a category or a time activity and get the clock started. So that clock's now running, and as you'd expect with any clock, you have the ability to stop and start the clocks. And then as and when you're ready, you can then record that time and submit the time through. You can have as many timers as you want to on your main dashboard here, and you can switch between the clocks very, very easily. Next up is timesheets. So often people want to record their time via a timesheet, so we have that capability, and you can see I've already got a timesheet open, so I can just simply add a line where I would complete the information and simply save it, and it would then pop that information onto my timesheet. We then have quick notes. So we recognize that attorneys are interrupted during the day. So we need to have a method for them to scribble down a little note about the interruption, and then maybe they'll come back and assign it at a later date. It could equally be the fact that the actual client and matter hasn't actually been opened yet. So this enables them to capture that information prior to a file being opened. To add a quick note, you simply do add note, pop in here the details, so telephone call, completion date, and we'll pop in the length of time we've spent, so just half an hour I was interrupted, and I'm going to simply save that. So it's saved as a note, and then as and when, maybe tomorrow, I can come back and then I can fill in the rest of the information. And last up on the time capture is the time tracker. So the system will learn over a period of time the files that I'm working on, what type of activities I'm doing on those files. So it will start to build up a list of the most recently used files for me. So much easier for me to come in here, and if I want to start a timer or if I want to enter time on any of these that are in the list, then I can just use these buttons. Just a really quick method of capturing the time on an existing file I've used before. So then we move to what the other capability within Teams, and Vinny mentioned about the evergreen bot, which is able to retrieve information and pull information back for a particular action. So let me walk you through that process. Up at the top here within chat, this is where the evergreen assistant lives. So we can just say hello and wake up the evergreen assistant, and they've come back and asked how they can help. So as an attorney, they might want to type something like record time, and the assistant will then come back with a card and ask me which matter I want to record time. So I'm going to type in Yada Media, and it's the advice file that I'm looking for. So just by searching for that, I've got the top hit there, Yada Media, but it's also brought some other files back that I've used recently that have actually got advice in the matter description as well. So I'll choose Yada Media, and at that point, I'm presented here with a form. So I can submit that through, and you can see here, it's the time entry has now been submitted. What other types of information can we request from the Evergreen assistant? If we've forgotten the URL to get into the assistant, then we can, if we spell it properly, just type in, oh dear, I'm having a bad day, Evergreen URL, and then the assistant will then bring back a form where I can access Evergreen and open from a link. You can also type in help, and we have a list of useful commands, help get me started. So we've seen open Evergreen, we've seen how we can create time. So we'll look here at search invoices. And just before I do that, you can see these are the Evergreen capabilities, but I can also do other areas which obviously not related to Evergreen, so I can open up Word, Excel, etc. So we'll search the invoices. If we've got the attorney has the client on the phone, then they'll need to be able to quickly find the information, and therefore we allow them to search by client name or matter description, or even just a list of the overdue bills. Alternatively, if the client is quoting the number or the attorney has the number, they can simply type the invoice number in. So very quickly, the details are then returned. I can see the invoice date, when the invoice was due. This is a traffic light indicator to tell me that an indication that it's overdue, this invoice. A little bit of information there on the invoice itself, and then the value and the currency that the invoice is held in. From here, I can drop down and view the client, view the matter, or even actually pull up the invoice to have a look at the data in a little bit more detail. So that was really just an overview of some of the Teams functionality that we provide to the user to enable them to carry on working in an interface that they work in every day, and without having to log anywhere else, then they can quickly access the information at their fingertips whilst remaining in Microsoft Teams. So I think at that stage I'm going to pass back to Vinny, and then we can pick up on any questions at the end.
Great. Lucy, if you'd be so kind to pass that back. Okay, thank you so much, Lucy. Appreciate that. Let me go in, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk a little bit about our cloud strategy and what we're doing in the legal marketplace that's a little bit different than some of the other vendors in the market. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about is our cloud journey and what we like to describe as true cloud, because with our cloud-based solution, we really aim to empower you to control your journey in the cloud, to help you deploy your system faster. Then, of course, simplify the system management over the life cycle of the application. So let's talk about controlling your journey. So all of the hosted solutions in the marketplace all leverage Azure, but I think the word that I'd like to emphasize there is hosted. So the two other major players in the marketplace leverage Azure as a platform, as a service. And as you can see down the right-hand side of the slide here, you can see that the other vendors in the marketplace are really controlling access to your data. The scalability of the solution, of course, with cloud, that's one of the real benefits, is being able to control your scalability, because when you can control scalability, you can control your cost. The third part, they are controlling access to third-party systems and integrations. Customizations and configurations all go through existing vendors in the marketplace. And likewise, all 200 plus Azure services that are available through the Azure cloud go through those vendors. We actually take the complete opposite approach, and what we try to do is really empower you with your own cloud journey. So the data, the scalability, the integrations, the customizations, and all of those services are really, those are really given to you, and you guys control that journey. So if you want to turn on something cool like the AI services from Microsoft Azure, you can turn that on in conjunction with your evergreen environment. So there's no reliance on us to take advantage of those third-party services. And likewise, when you start to look at kind of the ecosystem of what's happening out there in legal, there's a lot of vendors today. I saw a great presentation from the folks at NetDocs not too long ago, and they built out a Teams integration, and they're pushing their user community to Teams. I know the folks at iManage are doing something similar. And you start to look at kind of where the marketplace is heading, and there's a lot of vendors that are moving to that Teams integration site. And of course, you don't have to wait for the vendor to push that into the application. You guys have direct access and control over that. So for us, that's really an important part of the journey, to give you guys that control over your cloud environment. We have a deployment methodology that we call sa.global, and you can see a really high-level overview of what this solution is really meant to do. But there's really kind of two facets. One is really kind of the best practices component of this implementation methodology. So it allows you to go from 0 to live very quickly. It's built specifically for law firms. Includes things like your conversions as far as bringing your data over to the new system, invoices, and it's really designed, again, kind of from that prescriptive approach to get you guys up and get you guys moving on the system much faster than other solutions in the marketplace. This is kind of the methodology, if you will, as far as the implementation goes. But when you really combine that with our cloud management system, so we leverage the DevOps environment from Microsoft to help simplify your overall system management. And as you can see through that dashboard, we're tracking a whole wide variety of different components. And when you combine this with the sa.global methodology, what you're able to see is that we're able to track the project very efficiently. There's collaboration on both sides of the application. And of course, everything that you're going to do for the entire life cycle of the application lives right here in this interface. So if there are things that pop up, like sometimes there are bugs in the software, if there's a bug, we can manage it right through this application. If there's a new release of the software, it comes down through this application. The code itself is stored here. So when it comes down and we release a new version, it sits here. We have automated test scripts that you can run against your environment. So that's a big part of our journey as well, which gives automation to your next release. We know that that has often been a huge pain point for folks as far as managing their systems. A lot of times what we've seen is folks are running versions of software that are 2-3 years old. because of the pain that it takes to go from that last version to the new version, and the amount of resources that it actually takes for you to make that jump to the new version. Well, we automate all of those scripts and testing, and we put that down inside of the application. If you run your own customizations of that version of software, those customizations are stored here, and custom scripts can be built against them in order to cut down the overall time frame it takes to go to that new version. And it allows you to be up on that latest and greatest version of software that you're investing in, and taking advantage of those new features and functionalities that have been built into the software. And all of it is managed right through this simple user interface. And at the same time, it's cutting down dramatically on the overall effort that it takes for the staff to manage that version to version process. So really well thought out, really easy to consume interface here inside of the system management console. And that leads us to our client story. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to share a video. So this is about a 3-minute video. And once the video is over, we'll reconvene and we'll open things up for Q&A.
Phil Fisher is an international law firm headquartered in London. We're in 11 countries and we have 22 offices, and we are particularly well known for our focus on 4 particular sectors, which is renewable energy and natural resources, financial markets, technology and life sciences.
Particularly during the COVID crisis, we have seen the opportunity to make use of obviously cloud-based software. Perhaps one of the things actually which was potentially going to cause us some challenge, how we dealt with checks, and trying to get them signed was going to be challenging when everybody was working from home.
At that point, we could assess how the investments had actually prepared us for a situation like that. We have managed to make ourselves more resilient than we had expected.
When we eventually went live with Dynamics 365, we turned off, I think, something like 11 legacy systems, so that we were able to bring everything together in one place, which was very helpful. And of course, as a law firm, we're a heavy user of the Microsoft Office suite. And so this seemed to be just a natural development of that, to bring all of the firm's data together into one place and to work seamlessly.
The platform, Dynamics for Finance and Operations, is built in the Microsoft Agile methodology. And the way that we are utilising and planning for the future just means that it will continually be developed. And there will always be updates automatically behind the scenes to the system. And that feeds into the naming of the solution, which, as you know, is evergreen.
I think sa.global have been absolutely key to the success of the evergreen project here at Phil Fisher.
We chose sa.global because they are a Microsoft partner and they have core skills in the tool set that we have chosen, and they are helping us on our journey to get the best out of the Dynamics for Finance and Operations suite.
I'm really excited about the future, because I think that we are still really exploiting the capabilities of the software and the software platform. We are going to get to a point where we really have a competitive advantage through using the Evergreen platform. I think it demonstrates how the Microsoft suite together with the Evergreen product will work to really produce that overview of what's going on in the firm in a way that perhaps even just a few years ago we could only dream of.
So with that, we will thank you again, and we appreciate your attendance in the webinar today.